Computer on. Briefing to home office. User code Yankee 6. Location undisclosed. Source key COVID-19. Topic Delta variants. Situation developing. Urgency undetermined. Distribution extreme discretion. Assessment: this may require a political solution. Briefing follows, unclassified. Multiple reports in the dailies have indicated the emergence of variant mutant strains, including the topic of interest commonly identified as the Delta variant, with an emerging threat from an additional mutant Lambda strain from Peru that is beginning to arouse some level of attention in the States. Dr. Anthony Fauci, self-identified as the nation's leading infectious disease control expert, continues to maintain that the novel coronavirus was not the product of a laboratory and insists that, especially if not everyone consents to be vaccinated, it can be fully anticipated that yet another and potentially more dangerous mutant strain will present an existential threat in clear and present danger. Quite a shoddy affair. Reports close to the source provide more than ample indicia that the Delta variant has incited much cause for concern and even widespread panic in the streets, prompting as many as 2 million vaccine holdouts to surrender to fear of death from a 1.8 case fatality pathogen that has claimed the lives of almost 614,000 American lives, over 90% of whom have been over the age of 60, according to recent reports readily available in the open source. Like the current topic of concern, which had appeared at the end of July in a national daily publication, the Washington Post, which recently broke the story on what was apparently a slide presentation intended for visual learners at the CDC that outlines data that shows fully vaccinated people might spread the Delta variant at the same rate as unvaccinated persons. According to news reports, Dr. Rochelle the director, was quick to respond, hosting an interview with CNN, where she confirmed to reporters the existence of what had been confidential discussions that had appeared in a slide presentation at the CDC, and she braced the nation for the alarming news that, with regard to the Delta variant, the mutant strain that now accounts for over 90% of newly reported cases, stating that it's one of the most transmissible viruses we know about, measles, chickenpox, they're all up there. Unquote. Your first question in the spy business, when a reporter somehow acquires a secret document, is exactly how they happen to obtain a secret document. Is there a security problem at the CDC? Are secret files accidentally escaping from the headquarters for all public health in the nation? Escaping as easily as a biological hazard from a virological laboratory? Or is something trying to make it appear like an accidental release? At least those in the spy business can be quite devious, and things not always are as they appear to be. But at least on July 30th at the CDC, the evolving science of pandemic had reached the conclusion that the Delta variant was one of the most transmissible viruses we know about. And just weeks before, it was 50% more transmissible than the previous strain, but apparently with no new mutant variation, the Delta variant became supercharged. And since we have a quantifiable metric, let's go back to the beginning of the emergence of our Delta Force variant to analyze the initial threat assessment of that old or former mutant variant strain, 50% more transmissible than the previous strain. And when we have a percentage in intelligence, we need to apply the percentage to a number, a quantifiable metric, or else at least to anyone with any level of intelligence that would be the case. It is actually quite meaningless, like sales puffery statements of a salesman will make that actually don't mean anything at all, and to which he cannot be held accountable in a court. Granted virtual immunity. And if you were to attempt to locate the infectiousness of the previous strain in any of these Delta variant stories, you probably would not locate it because it may actually be classified. And we are currently in litigation with the White House to determine if that truly is the case. Perhaps it is also on a secret memo, because not even that number is published by the CDC. If you go to the CDC website, you will discover that chickenpox is 90% infectious, just like measles. But smallpox, one of the first vaccine cases brought before the Supreme Court for a highly contagious disease, is actually only 60% infectious, a little over a 50% chance you might get infected. But just enough to warrant your concern. And there are a few stories that have emerged on exactly what occurred to make the Delta variant in our pandemic the evil villain virus that it is today. And the first account actually appeared in a press release in June of last year, published by Scripps Research of ROCHELLE, the employer of Christian G. Anderson, who had written the definitive zoonotic evolution report, and who you may recall from a Fauci email that was written on January 31st of last year, where Anderson tells Fauci that he and his colleagues were quite convinced that the novel coronavirus had been engineered in a virology lab. A few months later, however, in April, Anderson forgot all about his concerns, drafted a short 3-page research paper telling the world everything we already knew about human coronaviruses generally, and claimed that if the novel coronavirus had been developed in a laboratory by government workers, who apparently these days even permit biological hazards to escape quite frequently from secure facilities, along with secret correspondence, it would have been a perfect virus. And perhaps, even if not perfect, by June, the novel coronavirus merited a press release from ROCHELLE to claim that the virus had read Anderson's previous report, apparently married a chia pet, and sprouted more crowns for its spike protein with ACE2 enzymes to engage as a purine cleavage site within the recombinant binding domain. And thereby, with more spiked crowns, it could conceivably, if not plausibly, just like the elopement with the chia pet, after reading a science report, perform the process of infection more efficiently. Makes perfect sense. Now, just a few months before, even the New York Times had conceded that most mutations in genomes are simply replacements of amino acids and other microscopic changes along the genome. But this was June, and the chia pet cover story apparently quelled many concerns for our scientists. It was not until perhaps around December that people became a little more familiar with the terms in biology, and discussions began to emerge about cleavage sites and genomes and ACE2 enzymes. But recall that apparently even at CDC, they needed a slideshow to inform scientists that the Delta variant is as transmissible as chickenpox. And they were the ones who last August, 8 months into a pandemic, posted cartoons to explain to others less informed how to properly wear a facial covering, declared valid and effective a decade ago by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, pointing out exactly where the nose and mouth were for anyone who may have been confused about those parts of their anatomy, as if severe acute respiratory tract infection were not sufficient to inform a person of average intelligence. But now, the new story that has emerged has visual power, certain to frighten anyone out of their boots, and cause little children nightmares while they sleep. But this is insider information that you don't find on local network news or cable, but you have to be a reader of popular science publications like Nature. And please note that this is a quote from a popular science publication that may be far too high level for most to understand who do not read popular science. So if you don't get lost in obfuscation, consider yourself one of the few intellectuals in the colonies. Sarah Reardon reports on July 21st, since first appearing in India in late 2020. The Delta variant of SARS-CoV-2 has become the predominant strain in much of the world. Researchers might now know why Delta has been so successful. People infected with it produce far more virus than do those infected with the original version, SARS-CoV-2, making it very easy to spread. Was anyone lost by that scientific analysis that apparently took scientists until now to explain what had emerged at the end of last year in India? More virus to spread means more chances to infect. Not quite as exciting as the marriage with a chia pet, I'll take it, but we shall have to deal with that. But our dear heart Sarah Reardon goes even further to inform us that, and this is a quote, according to current estimates, the Delta variant could be more than twice as transmissible as the original strain of SARS-CoV-2, which we know from the news would mean that the Delta strain, which has been around since late last year, has now been determined by scientists not to be just 50% more infectious, but 200% more infectious, which is quite a large miscalculation to make. But our dear heart Sarah Reardon would rather not bore us with the minutiae, and tells us that to find out why epidemiologist Jing Liu at the Guangdong Provincial Center for Disease Control and Prevention in Guangzhou, China, and his colleagues tracked 62 people who were quarantined after exposure to COVID-19 and who were some of the first people in mainland China to become infected with the Delta strain. Our dear heart Sarah Reardon explains further that the team tested study participants' viral load, which he places in quotes, a measure of the density of viral particles in the body, every day throughout the course of infection to see how it changed over time. Researchers then compared participants' infection patterns with those of 63 people who had contracted the original SARS-CoV-2 strain in 2020. So, for those of us who read publications of this variety, we now have a new science term to add to our vocabulary to keep up with the breaking news on the mutant Delta variant strain running out of control. Viral load. Viral load. A measure of density of viral particles, we recall. And apparently to our dear heart Sarah Reardon, the great mystery is now solved. More virus to spread means easier to infect, and perhaps Dr. Rochelle Walensky at CDC is a big Sarah Reardon fan, because when she had to explain the viral load to the world, she told the press to tell you that the higher viral load, estimated to be 1,260 times greater than the previous strain, apparently means that it would be easier to spread. But why did she say apparently, like a synonym for conceivably, but not necessarily plausibly? Are there more secret memos waiting to escape from the CDC? Presently in the States, the pandemic phenomenon has wreaked great panic and pandemonium, finding hotheads where cool minds should be required. So many former thrill seekers and daredevils find themselves now far too scared to resume their normally adventurous lives, swimming with sharks, traveling to exotic destinations in Europe and Asia, going on safari, posing for a selfie before the Parthenon, for another recognizable landmark like the Taj Mahal or Eiffel Tower with a cute pose to impress their friends on social media. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity. So please try to remain calm, cool, and collected. Grab a tall Vespa martini, medium dry, extra cold, shaken not stirred, and examine this formidable Delta Force in perspective. This may require a political solution. This briefing is unclassified. Nothing further. Yankee 6 out. Computer off.
This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.